Hey guys, here with John Marquez, amazing guy, friend, and passionate art collector. Let you guys in on his story and really his inspirations and general art collection.
This work right here is by an artist called Emily Mae Smith. She's from Austin, Texas, and works out of Brooklyn. This is a representation of Mount Fuji. It was a very important painting to her and to myself. It was the cover of White Wall, their latest editions. And I chose this place for it because I just think it works very well here with the wood floors and the entrance, and it's probably my favorite, or one of my favorite paintings in the house, so I thought it was appropriate for the entrance. I love to see it when I get in my house. This is a Kozh sculpture. It's called Gone. It was from his first show with 𝘆𝘅𝑒𝑚, which is the gallery that currently represents him after Peloton. This was like the piece from the show, from his first show. It was featuring, it was the cover of Vanity Fair, and it was also the cover of 𝘆𝑗uxtapox. It's probably one of the most emblematic sculptures that he has made. It's obviously a very important work from Kozh's practice.
Tell me a little bit about your background. How did you come to fall in love with art and design?
My relationship with art, I grew up around art. My mom collected Latin American art, so I was always peripherally aware of it, but never really much more than that. It was always in the background. I appreciated it. It was a lot of kinetic Latin American art. I didn't really start collecting until I was already independent and in college. When I bought my first apartment, that's when I made my first purchases. But I've always been a collector by nature since I was a kid. I used to collect baseball cards, I used to collect stamps, I used to collect coins. Later on in my life, I started collecting vintage watches. And then the art thing, from buying for decoration, a couple of years later with the Wynwood walls, I fell in love with street art, and that's how kind of I really started getting into collecting. And little by little, I started acquiring objects by cost, prints. A couple years later, probably like 12 years ago, I bought my first Banksy original, Forgive Us Our Trespassing, and that's kind of when the bug
You caught the bug.
I caught the bug, and just little by little, I just became passionate and in love, which today is a big part of my life. It's a huge part of my life.
I think aside from obviously all the beautiful artwork, something that really resonated with me the first time I came here was just all the stunning furniture and, really the accents and context that provides. So obviously I don't want to ignore the beauty in front of us either, but.
As you can see, I collect mid-century modern design, some Brazilian, some Europeans, Danish. This specific piece is Brazilian, from mid-century Brazilian. It was designed by Carlo Hauner and Martin Eisler.
No, the table is absolutely stunning. The raffia and just the lines and the woodwork.
The raffia, the colors,
everything.
Yeah, the wood, yeah.
And obviously how it's aged. I love just really the timelessness. I think that's why art's beautiful, is it encapsulates, not only the feeling or what the artist is trying to invoke, but, any artist from any respective era, provides so much context. So anyways, yeah, let's talk about the genesis.
So Genesis, this is Genesis Tremaine. She's an artist. She's based in Brooklyn. She's heavily inspired in Christianism. I got it from 𝘠𝘠𝑚 about 2 years ago, I believe, from her first show. I had seen the work for the first time in a group show that 𝘠𝘠𝑚 had in Paris during FIAC. And I saw two works, I flirted with them, I was taking my time. She hadn't been picked up by the Rebels or anything. She was relatively unknown. I really fell in love with it. So here we have some objects. This is Joel Gaitan. I just bought this from Katya's show here in Little Havana. He's a Nicaraguan American artist that does the ceramics, which I find fascinating. They're really fun. His work is great, and it's getting a lot of traction also. Down here, this is 𝘬𝑡 𝘠𝑢𝑙𝑖𝑟. He does this little ceramics also of fruits and different objects. Here we have Genesis Rellinger. She shows with Peloton and Rudolf Jansen.
So tell us a little bit about the party. Obviously, Party's a incredibly regarded, highly followed artist right now, if not one of the hottest.
One of the hottest, yeah. He's a market darling. I bought this earlier. Back then, he wasn't as popular as he is today. I just fell in love with the orange and the green. I love orange in art. And I love this series of just people standing, facing away. This painting also just fits like a glove in this spot. When I was remodeling the house and I was looking at my inventory, I was like, this needs to go here. It just fits perfectly. And it's also one of my favorite pieces in the house. As I mentioned earlier, this was an old house from the 70s that I just recently remodeled. This specific room was a game room. It's like a playroom. It didn't have a door, so I added the door. There was a bunk bed here that I knocked down, and I found this AC ducts, so I covered it in micro cement. And then there was just about the time that I decided to turn this into a master bedroom and incorporate some furniture, a mix of furniture and art. So when I did this, I figured this piece right here, which is by 𝘰𝘢𝑚𝑖𝑘ADO, a Japanese artist. This was done by him in a residency in Mexico. So this was done with Mexico textiles, and I just loved it for this part of the house. Also a couple of mid-century pieces there. There's a sofa by Finn Jewell, and a desk by Andre Block, mid-century also. Just the whole lofty vibe of the space. I felt it would make a great spot to mix art and design and make it a master bedroom.
The whole intent of this is art and collecting, the study of design. I think, design is such a dynamic concept because it's just, down from nature to man-made to, it's everywhere that you want to look at it, the beauty of design. So I think it's also interpretable by each respective human. So I think that's what also makes it cool, is everyone has their own perspective of what's beautiful and what turns them on, or what hits a note, what resonates, and what you want to bring and safeguard. I think there's also that concept, the concept of living with art. I think that's what makes the art collecting really special, and this process really special, because it's like art in a museum and a gallery is one thing, but taking it and applying it to people's lives, that's a whole nother thing. And then art really starts to add so much context, overall in that. So I think showing the basketball court is this is it. This is a basketball that could have just been a generic basketball court, but he wanted to elevate it, and it's so stunning and amazing, and your kids are out there playing on it, and subconsciously to them it's embedded in just what they're doing day to day. That's incredible, because they're already conditioning someone to appreciate beauty in its own right. So love this room. Obviously, this is definitely one of the rooms that resonated most, especially because I think it seems to be your safe zone, your creative studio, your office, all of that. Tell us a little bit more how this came about and really what it represents to you.
Yeah, so 100%. So this room is, like Matt said, it's my fort. It's where I spend most of my day, and this is my room, so I have final say what I do here. And differing from the rest of the house, as you can see here, it's a little bit more crowded. There's art all over the place. It's more set up in a salon style, with just art on every wall as much as I can. And my art gallery. Here's where most of the highest concentration of art in the house is. So you can see in the wall behind you is set up in salon style, just crowded figures, faces, more Brazilian, mid-century, Carlo Hauner, Martin Eisler, the Costella chair. Also, this desk, which is one of the few contemporary pieces in the house, is done by an artist called Casey Jones Studio. We have the Joe Colombo chair in the back. We have a Banksy piece here. As you know, Banksy was one of the first artists I started to collect over a decade ago. This is one of his pieces from his last show called Gross Domestic Product. It's a little installation of a fish jumping out of the fishbowl into the ocean.
Eckhardt's probably, obviously it's easy for this to be regarded probably as the favorite, but yeah, this is so stunning, just his use of colors and the abstract nature.
And it's not a typical painting of his. It's a little bit more figurative than his usual paintings. It's also one of my favorite paintings in the house and one of my favorite artists. I collect him deeply. Love this painting. Just it's a little bit more cartoonish and fun than what he usually paints. And like Matt said, yeah, this is like my little gallery showroom where I could just freely showcase art. And here, as you see, you have two of my all-time favorite artists, which is Robin Frances Williams. She's an artist from the Midwest that lives in Brooklyn. One of my favorite, if not my favorite, female figurative painter. Her works, if you get close to it, the texture on them and
the marbleization is
the marbleization and the texture here of the sun. She really takes very long time painting paintings. They're very detailed. It's one of those pieces I could stare at for hours. The first artist that I completely became obsessed with and fell in love with was Robert Nava. At that time, he wasn't popular, so I started just reaching out to everyone, including him, meeting him, and just started buying whatever I could get my hands on back in the day.
You have a couple pieces of his?
Yeah, I have a couple of pieces of his work. I collect him deeply. He's one of my favorites. But there's some times where you buy things that maybe you say, you know, I could have not bought this. Or sometimes it could be very impulsive, as much as you try not to, especially with how fast the art world moves today. Sometimes you don't have a lot of time to think.
That's an important thing, just being cohesive in your vision, right?
100%.
And being calculated with what fits in your collection. I think, you know, we all have storage units. We all have, like, we can't live with all our art, unfortunately. Like, I think as you get older, you want to, but it's a question of making it work, right?
Yeah, and it comes to a point where art doesn't fit in your house anymore. Yep. And that's where, what do you do now? That's why my next step is opening a public space in 𝘂𝗟𝗏 where my intention is to showcase highlights of my collection along with artist residencies and new artists every year.